Martin, Lenny, welcome to TRunblock.com. Let's just get straight into it by asking you how you actually came to work together. Lenny, you want to kick off?
Sure. I started my career with Majorca Jewelry, the Spanish pearl company. I was the president of the U.S. operation and a shareholder, also responsible for travel retail, duty free, and flight. And after a 17-year career there, I decided to move on and to start my own company and started World Class Brands in 2000. So we're in our 23rd year as an independent company. We began by looking for brands that did not have awareness of the travel retail duty free market or have the wherewithal to come into the market. So signed on a few great brands. Boulevard Watch Corporation was my first brand, a well-known traditional American watch brand. And it was at that time that I met Martin at a few of the conventions. And eventually when Martin had an agent in the Americas for Secunda, when she retired, he and I started working together. And it was during that process that when he left and went to Rotary, we once again represented the brand. And we finally decided that maybe I thought that he should join us and come to the dark side and be one of us on the selling side, since he has great skills and is very talented on the selling side of the trade. So we began working together and started a joint venture about 6 years ago, where we are now today.
Martin, anything to add?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think I just like to add that, Lenny has one of those sort of addictive personalities, and you warm to instantly, both from a client side and so from a brand side. So, when we first met, I think there was a desire to work together in some capacity further than sort of brand relationship, agent relationship. So, and I think when we joined together, we made a fantastic decision. We think and act very similar. And we enjoy what we do working together.
So how does the business actually function? How does it operate?
Effectively, we act as agents for brands within the duty-free travel retail sector on a global footprint. We represent around about 16 brands as of today. Our core categories being watches, jewellery, health, beauty, wellness, sunglasses and accessories. It's a joint venture, as Lenny mentioned. So the core office we have in the US is in Chicago, where Lenny's based. Our UK core office is in London, where I am. From there, obviously, the US looks after the North, Central, South, and Latin America region. Here we look after the UK, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And we have a satellite team in the Middle East that look after that region for us. We currently successfully supply all the major ground cruise operators, and we have in excess over 100 global airline listings for our brand partners as of today.
Well, that's quite a result. I mean, if you can, could you define your USP?
It's a good question, Peter, to be honest, because it's so detailed. But I think we have so many blowing our own trumpet. But I think one of the key ones is our disruptive nature, and what I mean by that is we have the ability to clearly identify gaps in the market. That could be a product category where there isn't a particular product at a price point offering a certain style or at a certain price point, or it could be a category that has a wealth of competition in it, but there are better brands out there that could offer more and generate greater sales. I think also we have a key eye for those types of brands. But I think, one of our key sort of USPs is our underlying passion, shall I say, for the duty-free sector. Lenny's been doing this for 40 years. I've been doing it for 20, combined 60. If you put all our team together, it's over 100. And we have a complete desire to make our brands a success, but also make them a success for our clients. So it's a win-win on both sides.
Just following up, you've identified that you're involved in a number of fairly major and growing categories. Can you just briefly walk us through the products that you represent within those categories?
Yes, of course. The categories that we initially started with was where our core competency was, which was jewelry and watches. And we felt that this is where our strengths were, where our knowledge was and our base was, right? And so we went with our core DNA, which we look for each of our brands, which is brand name, value proposition, perceived value. So those elements had to be part of our mix. And from there, we sought out brands. And one of our leading brands is Casio G-Shock and Baby G, which is a tremendous brand globally. They weren't in the duty-free travel retail market, and it was a great opportunity to bring them to that market. Of course, along with that is Festina. Festina, a global leading brand, very, very strong in each of their own domestic and duty-free markets. So again, we go back to the core, like where did we start? We first started with watches, and then we went into jewelry, which, we have Anne Klein. We have, again, a leading brand, $700 million in sales globally, where quality, brand name, and recognition is right in the forefront for the brand. We also then sought after licensed brands such as Harry Potter. I mean, it's a tremendous global footprint. It is a incredible following, bar none. If you look at the overall Harry Potter brand as a whole and the licensing that they have done and the success that it has, it's immediate brand recognition. So we built on those brands initially, where jewelry and watches were. And then we sought out to venture into the unknown, as I would like to say. When Martin came to me and said, let's go into beauty and wellness, initially I thought, what do we know about this segment, right? And after several different conversations, we used the same core DNA to identify opportunities and to go after that. And we've built on that with Beauty Pro, for example, and Barber Pro, mask, retinol, vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, serums, and we develop now. We have tools in the industry as well. LED wands for your face. It's we've developed now into what I like to call in beauty and wellness, mind, body, and soul.
That I think, like Lenny said, it's I think when you sort of say what's your core, really all our brands are core, because effectively what we do is we look for brands that complement one another so that don't cannibalize and add value to our clients' core categories. And I think every one of our brands has a right to be within our portfolio because they add a certain value in the sense of consumer demand from a global perspective. And I think we saw the need to pivot. Jewelry category and the watch category was starting to decline in size with a lot of our buyers. And we saw a lot of exciting, new, innovative, disruptive beauty brands coming to market. And we could see from the data from a domestic perspective that consumers were engaging with these brands more so necessarily than some of the better known luxury, high perceived brands. So we embraced them and we brought them to market. And as a result, the success has been quite phenomenal.
I know that both of you prioritize when you're looking at existing and prospective business partners, that their products need to be on trend, sustainable, accessible, and affordable. I mean, what criteria do you use when deciding that you want to distribute to your global base of airlines, cruise lines, and airports, for example? I mean, how important is it that each of the brands that you represent fills a genuine gap in the market? You just don't want to be a me too.
I'm gonna say that we go through a rigorous process to identify the void or the need that is missing in the market, and we go through this process of identifying and making sure that each box has been checked off. And in order to do that, we have a list of items that need to be met. And if we then go through that process and feel that the brand has done that, then we approach that brand or consider that brand and present to them a business plan to enter the travel retail duty-free market. With that in mind, we make sure that all those boxes are checked, and we make sure that this process is something that we feel we've exhausted to make sure before we bring something to market. Because we have a lot of solicitations. A lot of people come out and reach out to us, and we just don't take a brand on to take a brand on. We take a brand on if we feel that brand is really missing or is a fit within the industry at that moment in time.
I think it's really important that we stress that how we work, in the sense we work on a commission basis. And the reason why I share that, sort of, some people might say that's a bit of a sensitive information, but the reality is it's good for people to realize that we earn from selling products. So when we take on a brand and we've done our due diligence, rigorous due diligence processes, we need to be assured that that brand has the ability to perform, not just for us, but for our clients. And, at the end of the day, that's why we really focus on backing the four-legged horses that have the ability to win.
So you get a new brand partner on board, but just how difficult is it to manage their expectations? I mean, travel retail, after all, is a whole world different from the domestic market. It's a different culture too. How much time do you find you need to invest with your brand partners to get them to better understand how the travel retail playing field actually works?
Peter, that's an incredible question, because I think for us, the first step is education. We have to educate them, give them insights. Essentially, we are providing a consulting service at no charge. We provide them with the understanding, knowledge that we have of the industry. We educate them on pricing, positioning, reasons that they have to be below the local market, by what percent. We give them insights into POS material, point of sale material, whether they need a freestanding unit, whether they need an in-case display, depending on the product, obviously. We talk about positioning in the market. And so all of this becomes part of our education process, or our brand awareness process. And it takes basically the first year to get our brand partners up to speed. And it basically then takes another 6 months before we begin to really start seeing results. And it isn't until 2.5 years into it that we really start to see the real synergistic efforts and work that we put into the beginning of the process start to give back to all of us.
I mean, our ultimate goal really, Peter, is to bring a turnkey solution to our retail partners. And so that's why that process is so important. When we present the brand, we know it's going to offer the right product that the consumer, global consumers, proactively buying in domestic markets. It's at the right price points. As Lenny says, it's the right packaging, window boxes, shrink wrap for airlines, etc. And then from a ground store perspective, we also try to create these freestanding display units and POS with the operator in mind, because we appreciate their staff in store. They've got hundreds of brands to look after. So, here comes another brand. We want to be that brand that goes in and has low maintenance for the staff. So there's just a very quick process on when they need to redress. The display effectively looks after itself, and then the product takes care of the sales.
So moving on, you guys have now been working together for 7 years. Should I ask the question about where the 7-year itch is coming from? But I certainly want to ask a question about where you actually see growth coming from. Now, you've highlighted this slightly earlier, Martin, by talking about wellness brands. Is that where it's at?
Again, I think growth is all, it's a bit of a sort of corny phrase, but growth is all around us. And I'm not going to go into song, but I think the reality is, it's, again, going back to our USPs, it's another one of our strengths is that we have the ability to even look in categories where you don't think there's growth potential, but the ability to go away and get a brand that can deliver that growth potential and surprise everyone. But yes, there are certain categories, you're right in what you say, that where we're seeing, and it's obviously driven by the global consumer, because a lot of our time is spent focused on the global consumer market, looking at data, research, consumer behavior, because that enables us to shape our offering and bring it to consumer. Because effectively, the passenger that passes through the airport, that sits on an aircraft at 30,000 feet or goes on a cruise liner, is the same person like you and I that shop on the high street. So if they're buying at the high street level this type of product at this type of price point, then there is no reason why they won't engage with those products and brands in a travel retail environment. But the growth really is quite exciting in the sort of wellness category, and we have got a couple of exciting new brands, which unfortunately we can't talk about today because we're not quite at that stage, but they are going to be quite disruptive. One of them in particular adds a great value to the global consumer.
I'd like to add to that for a second, going outside of wellness for a second and looking at what we did with Formula One, right? Formula One eyewear. Here's a category that's controlled by the few leading eyewear companies. You know, there's a few of them that dominate the market, everyone knows, and rightfully so, right? But here we went looking for a Formula One branded product that is a brand that is probably the fastest growing brand globally, with a following daily on, every social media network you could imagine. And we went to them and went through a process with them on giving us a entry level product with incredible quality, with UV lenses, metal hinged. I don't have to go into the specifics, but this product at 49 pounds is amazing and branded, and now with a beautiful display that draws you right to Formula One, the F1 logo on it. So again, that's a niche item that's not in wellness, but again, is a product that falls into your question, Peter, where we look for that. Where's that moment in time where's the growth going to come from? Where's that driving force? That's one of those brands right now that we see as getting stronger and stronger by the day. Martin, you could elaborate if you want.
No, I think just to finish off, I think you're absolutely right. It's a fantastic example to give, Lenny.
That was a turbo-propelled sales pitch, that's for sure.
It's a brand, a lot of people wouldn't go into that kind of territory knowing that those very, very strong and powerful global operators within that, suppliers, have got a very strong hold on that market. But there's always a gap. There is always a gap. And, there is, the demand, there is a demand from the global consumer for impulse price point products that offer great value for money. And you take the Formula One brand, it's got the brand itself had a global reach in 2022 of 1.5 billion people. And they have a social media following of 50 million. And you have to ask your question, even the big brands out there, how many of them have that reach? And then put onto that the UV lenses, polarized lenses.
Exceptional value for money.
Exceptional value for money, and their sustainability credentials, it's phenomenal. And everything they do reflects everything that happens in Formula One. So the quality is outstanding.
Okay, I just want to flip this. You're in daily contact with major global travel retailers, airlines, and cruise lines. I mean, as a business, would you say that you are actively pursuing what they say they want? Because what you've just talked about is actually you creating a gap in the market, not necessarily that being asked for by key retailers. And when they do actually ask you for something that they want, does that always correspond with your own understanding of what consumers actually want today? I mean, just how blurred is the dividing line?
We are very considerate of what of our clients' needs and expectations, and we have many of our clients actually come to us with requests or acknowledging they have a gap in the market. Do we know of a brand, or can we find a brand that possibly could fulfill it? Obviously, part of our due diligence is we have to make sure that that's a global request, a need, rather than specific, because obviously we need to make sure our brands can deliver to all, not just a few. And I think a case study for this is, one of our hairbrushes brands, it's called Manta. That market sector was well taken care of for a decade by quite a well-known global detangler. But in 2019, the numbers started to plateau. Why? Because there had not been any product innovation during that time within that category. Yes, different styles of brushes had come out with different colors, but effectively it was the same brush at the end of the day. And the global consumer at that point had ended up with 4 or 5 of them in their house, especially if you've got children and even some people using it on their pets and dogs, believe it or not. But so when those consumers were getting on an aircraft or going through an airport to get on an aircraft, and they saw this particular brand, there wasn't a need for it because they already had it, and potentially 4 or 5 versions of it. Now, some may look at that and say, well, the category's dead. Where we look at it, we looked at the consumer behavior, and that we could see the hair health category was dramatically increasing with quite some vigor. So we knew that the category wasn't the issue. We just knew it was product offering. So we went out, we weren't shy. We looked for the Mansa, which is a phenomenal hairbrush. It was created by a professional hairdresser who has the largest chain of hair salons here in the UK. He actually created the product because his wife had a life-threatening illness, and during her chemotherapy lost her hair, and her hair was falling out every time it was growing back, and she needed a brush that wasn't so aggressive. So here's a beautiful product that was created out of love, not out of a commercial element. And then obviously Tim has seen the commercial aspects to it and brought it to market. And we picked up on this and said, look, this is what the consumer wants. They want quality at affordable prices that offer something that nothing else in the market does. This product, you can massage your shampoo in your hair, comb through your conditioner. Instead of pulling knots out of your hair, the brush gives not the hair, so you have much healthier hair as a result of it.
Well, sadly, I don't think that's going to work for me. But let's just go on to and return to a question on sustainability. Just how important do you and your brand partners see sustainability nowadays? And can you actually provide, you have touched on this earlier, some examples where measurable sustainable actions have actually been taken?
Look, sustainability, is something that none of us can ignore. And, I've got young children, 11 and 14, and, I look at them and try to imagine what their lives will be in 20, 30 years time and what the world would be. So I think we have a duty to take this matter very seriously. And this is one of the things that we added to our sort of due diligence checklist when looking for new brands some years ago, to ensure that they had at least 3 to 4 points of sustainability within their offering. And to give you an example, I take Beauty Pro, one of our newer beauty well-being brands. They have a mixture of face masks and face serums, and they also do a fantastic range of beauty tech for your skin. Beauty Pro's face masks in general can come in a foil pouch. Now, foil pouches to keep them fresh and to keep them airtight. Now, foil pouches in general are not sustainable. So Beauty Pro went away and they looked at this, and now their face masks, their face pouches are all 100% biodegradable, and they're the first brand to market with this offering. If you look at their ingredients, they use natural ingredients which are sustainably sourced. So everything from what goes into the product to the final packaging is as sustainable as it can be at this moment in time. And what I'm going to mean by that is technology will control how sustainable brands can be. So it's our brands' responsibilities to make sure that they're using the most modern technology to be as sustainable as they possibly can. And again, we represent Bitmore, which is, again, I think it's very well documented. They're the first sustainable electronics brand to market. And again, they're removing plastic and replacing it with wheat straw. And I believe last year alone, they removed 5 tons of plastic from their products. And if you take the electronics category, as we all know, it's probably the biggest, the main category that relies the most heavily upon plastics in their products. So yes, absolutely, we are very mindful of it, and we are very active. And then the brands which are historic brands to us, again, we work with them, but to be honest, they know they need to change, and they are changing. And it could be things from, packaging. They're, rather than using sellotape or tape, they use biodegradable tape for their boxes and their outer cartons. So they are all reviewing and doing what they can to become more sustainable.
Well, that brings this interview to a close. Just one last question. If there was one single message, and I guess there's probably more than one, that you want to communicate to the travel retail industry viewing this video, what would it or they be? Lenny, you want to kick off with this?
Yes, Peter, I will. I'd like to say that we think very much like Martin and I, and we really seek to find brands that meet the market needs in a calculated manner to make sure that we, both buyer and agents, are successful. We look to deliver a win-win with brands that have the ability to evolve in time within the industry that we are in, and deliver long-term benefits for both.
Martin, your comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to finish off by saying, look, everything that Lenny has said, I completely wholeheartedly agree with. I think the other thing is we are just a very passionate business that really wants to see the duty-free travel retail world succeed. And we believe in our brands. We spend a lot of time and effort finding them and making sure, nurturing them, that they're right for the market. And we know that they can succeed because we have some amazing, amazing success stories on board in flight, in ground stores, and on board cruise ships.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.